Hello, everyone. In this section, we're going to talk about Cisco Unified Call Manager Administration. And we'll start with Cisco Unified Communication Manager, its introduction, its various features, what it does, and then slowly we'll progress towards different things that we're going to configure in our cluster. So quickly to start with, without wasting much of the time on detailing out the theory part, I really love to explore things much more in detail by showing, practical stuff over there. So this is the IP address of my Cisco Unified Communication Manager. So I'm just gonna type it afresh. And this is what you get when you type in your call manager IP address. And for administrator, this is the place where you got to go most of the time. The second link that you see, Cisco Unified Communication Self-Care Portal, is for the end users, that they can go and control their devices like IP phones or Cisco Jabber end devices and so on. But for now, we as an administrator are going to focus about Cisco Unified Communication Manager, and it's going to redirect us to the prompt where it's going to ask us for credentials. So let me put in my credentials. And the first thing you would see on this page is the version of Cisco Unified Communication Manager and its installation type. So this is the latest and greatest version of Cisco Unified Communication Manager, version 12.5. And it is installed on a virtual machine with 2 vCPU, that's virtual CPU, and one disk with 150 gigabytes and 4 gigs of RAM. Since it's a testing environment, it's a lab environment, right? You do not see a lot of RAM and CPU and so on, but if you have got a production environment, you would see pretty detailed, or I would say a lot of resources assigned to the virtual machine. So now let's explore to the different options that we see here on Cisco Unified Communication Manager. In this training, you will notice me interchangeably using Cisco Call Manager and Cisco Unified Communication Manager, because the CM earlier used to be Call Manager, but then lately it has become Communication Manager, because now Call Manager does everything, not only the calls, but it is also responsible for many other stuff like now, you have got Jabber, you have got Jabber on bot, on Android devices, Apple devices, and video callings and WebEx, and there's so many things, right? IMN presence. So there is so many things that are integrated now, and Cisco Unified Communication Manager, being the central part of it, plays a very critical role. This is why it is now rebranded Cisco. I think back in 2007, rebranded their Call Manager to Cisco Unified Communication Manager. So you would really listen to many of those expert in unified communication field that they would say Call Manager, because that's the time they're quite used to of working on the Call Manager version 4.x. But with 5.x, it is called Cisco Unified Communication Manager. So from 5 to 6 to 7 and so on, now we are on Communication Manager 12.5 version, which is the latest and greatest version. All right, so we see that a user administrator logged into this cluster on Monday 9, 2020. So that's where you see that it's a successful attempt to log into the Communication Manager. And you would also notice here that if someone tries to log in here and puts in incorrect credentials, it will be logged in here with a red font. So just to highlight you as an administrator that someone is trying to log into your system, so beware. All right, so let's explore the various options like we said. So this system option is something that you do not go quite often, but then it's really important. This is the place where you would see how many servers are installed, how many, what is the DHCP configuration like, and what is the NTP, right? What is the date and time group? What are the call manager group, right? Enterprise parameter, uh, service parameters, and many other stuff, which is more to do with overall architecture, overall system, right? How things are connected with the call manager server, right? So this presence redundancy groups is for IMN presence, right? Region, device pool, LDAP, like you got to have your Active Directory, right, integrated with the call manager, so you can import maybe hundreds and thousands of users to the communication manager, so you can easily integrate with LDAP, which is lightweight directory access protocol, or any Active Directory. For example, you may have, you know, apart from Windows, like Active Directory, there are other directories available as well. So you could use this tab here to integrate with them. So there are so many things which are here, and we'll get deeper into our training when we cover them up. But this is like an overall architectural standpoint. This tab is going to be utilized. Though you come, uh, less frequently over here, but this is an extremely important tab that talks about how the infrastructure overall looks and what our configurations are there. So for instance, we see when we go to the system and then the first tab server, we see that we have got 3 servers installed over here. The first one is the publisher server, the second is subscriber, and the third one is Cisco IMN presence server. Now, these two are call processing servers. As we know that Cisco Unified Communication Manager voice and video servers are meant for end users to have their call processed, right? Like their Jabber or any Cisco hard phone or conference phones will be registered right here, and they'll do the call processing. And our IMN presence server, obviously this training is not about IMN presence, but from cluster standpoint, this gets in a cluster and shows right here that this is responsible for Jabber, instant messaging and their present status, like if you're available, or if you're busy, or if you're away, or if you're offline. So that responsibility is taken care by this guy here, Cisco IMN presence, and that shows as part of the cluster. Now, if I click on this publisher server, you would notice that the role of this server is also described right here. If you notice, this is the publisher server right here. The host name is written like this, right? This is something we can talk about later on when we discuss about intercluster communication. But for now, to keep it simple, this is where you can check the responsibility of the server. Even if your hostname does not include the letter pub or publisher or something like that, you can still come to this link and notice that the database replication status is set to be publisher. So this is the first node, as we know, in the cluster. Similarly, we can go in here, the second server, and we can find it out that this server is working as a subscriber server. So this is important. Now let's go back, right, and see the third one, which is our IMN presence. You would notice the role of that server as well over here, which says publisher, but this guy here is IMN presence. You would notice that it has got a different tab here, IMN presence server information. So the earlier 2 servers did not have this IMN presence server information tab here. So though it's a publisher, but for IMN presence purpose, it's not for call processing. Okay, with that said, now in our lab environment, we have got one pub, one sub, and one IMN presence. Though it is, since we know that it can support thousands of phones and all, but generally a typical call manager cluster would have at least, you know, two subscribers for call processing, and publisher, TFTP, music on hold, and so on, based on the workload that they have to deliver to the end users. You would see that more and more uh, clusters, more and more servers are added to the cluster. But in our lab environment, the load is really less, so we have got only 3 servers. Let me go to Cisco Unified CM, the second option under System tab right here. I'm going to do a blank find, and you would see that those servers that we saw in the first tab are also here, but then we do not see the IMN presence. So the server is listing IMN presence server as well, but when we go to Unified Communication Manager, right, we only see the Unified Communication Manager servers, the pub and the subscriber server. All right, so I'm just gonna get a little, important tabs for you to understand. I'm not gonna get into the very details of it because it's just an introductory session, but I really want to cover those which are important. Now, this thing here, Cisco Unified Communication Manager Group, is where you basically define the behavior of registration and so on, how many devices can the device do auto registration with call manager group, this one or not. So we see that this call manager group has got this guy selected here, right? And it is by default selected for auto registration. Yeah. So we can add new communication manager group as well. For example, if I add a test one, right? Test CUCM, and then I would not check this option, auto registration Cisco Unified Communication Manager Group, and I would select this server here. So over to this group, the phones will not be able to register automatically. If you check this option, right, the phones will have auto registration enabled, meaning the phones would attempt to register with the call manager server, and the call manager would allow any new entry to be added to this cluster. All right, so let's go back, and all right, so leave the presence because this is not really the presence video that I'm making. I'm going to get into phone NTP reference. This is really important. NTP is for your network time protocol. And we see that it has become not only important but mandatory for you to have NTP defined phone NTP references, right? It's not the NTP server for call manager, but for phone. We can add NTP references so that the phone can pick it locally. For instance, you may have different locations, right? And each location may have different time zones, and you want them to be, you want the NTP configuration to be picked up locally to avoid any time lag. So you'll define the NTP references right here so that the phones are really synced up as close as possible to the internet timing. Date and time group, very important again. Now, this is where it defines, what is the local time for a particular site. You can have multiple date and time group based on the geographical location of your site. So this guy here is used by 35 devices, and it is using GMT plus and what we could do is we can select anything, right? It's the whole entire time zone is listed here, right? You can select any one of them, and the phones who are using this one would be showing that time zone on their screen. Now, this separator is basically for the timing, for the date. Basically, applies to date format only. So it's like when you write something like 26 December 2020. So you would say 26 slash 12 slash 20. So that's how it would appear on the phone. Because sometimes customers really do not want slash, they want dash or dot, so you have the option to make the changes accordingly, right? Accordingly, the date format is month, date, year, or date, month, year, and so on. So you can choose it from here. Time format, important again, on the phone screen, you want 12-hour format displaying AM and PM, or just 24-hour format, which will be like for 13 hours, it's like 1 p.m., it will be 13 hours. So this is important because many customers would have their own way of putting things on screen on of the phone. So date and time group becomes important, and you can copy and create as many as you want. Um, Region is where you define the codec, uh, and right across two sites or multiple sites, the relations are defined here. You can add many regions according to the type of devices or physical location and what codec will be utilized between the two sites is defined here. So for instance, the codec between default region, which is this guy here, and default region, so within this region, will be 64 kbps, G722, G711 by default for audio calls. So G722, G711 will be advertised, and for video calls 384, and for immersive video call, this much of bandwidth is allocated. We can add more region, and then we'll have more regions listed out here in this drop down, and we can, just like this, we can define the relation between the one you created and the region relationships with. So this and the one listed here will be can be configured. So if you want to make a change from default to any region, you can come down here and can say you can go higher or lower, right, based on your bandwidth. So generally within the region, it's always G722 and G711 because they provide much better audio quality. And for a region which are geographically not at the same place, and they're using WAN bandwidth where band bandwidth is limited, obviously you're going to come down here and may use G729. You would often hear that, which is less bandwidth consuming. All right. Similarly, we have got device pool, which has got similar set of configurations for your end devices, right? It's our lab environment. Generally, you would see based on sites and device types, you would see a lot of device pool configuration here. So you can come and select the Unified Communication Manager group and date and time group, right? That we talked, the region that we also talked about. These we have not talked yet, but this is the place where you can create a device pool and can assign many configurations, and based on that, this device pool will be allocated to the end device, which is like a phone or jabber, and they can inherit whatever you basically select here. So this is important place, really important that you as an administrator would come down quite frequently to check what's configured under device pool, and it really makes a lot of significance in terms of the configuration for we as an administrator. DHCP is something wherein you would like to create Cisco Unified Communication Manager as a DHCP server for the phones to take IP address, default mask, and subnet mask, and default gateway. We have not created this communication manager as a DHCP server. Generally, in network architecture, we have got a separate DHCP server so that our call manager server does not get an extra responsibility of providing IP address as well, but it is well capable of if in case you want. Right, so with LDAP, you can come down here and get it integrated like I talked a bit with any Active Directory. So this guy here, our cluster is integrated with Microsoft Active Directory. You have got Sun or Oracle Directory Server, OpenLDAP, and other options for you to get your call manager integrated with directory services. Now this is the place where you come and you can configure about your LDAP integration part of it. It's not configured here, the directories, but you can come down and check the authentication where the users authenticate and so on. You can put in your entry for LDAP and get it integrated. Location is the place where you define your bandwidth for two sites, right? So for instance, these are the default one which gets created, and you can create your own. So if you see that the hub none location, right, the bandwidth is audio bandwidth for intra-location, which is within the location, is unlimited. And for we are under hub none, so for hub none to hub none, no reservation. For phantom, no reservation are done, but you can make some changes right here. So locations define the bandwidth, and a region defines the codec. They work in coherence, so region and location right here. Okay. Now, enterprise parameters are pretty detailed subject. When we get into it, we can talk about it. You would quite often need to come here and see what things are configured. So what's the cluster ID like? You can say, you can name your cluster, anything like name of your company and so on. And various configurations like, would you like to advertise G722 or not? URL lookup policy, URI lookup policy is case sensitive. Basically, when you want to have your different intercluster interaction based on user resource identifier, it is handy. So basically, there are much more detailed stuff here, and I really don't want to explain these all at the beginning of the session, because I really want to keep this session simple to start with. Later on, we can take a deep dive into this. But for now, we can leave it as is. But I really wanted you to come here and take a look. That this is, like I said, that it defines how the overall infrastructure looks, and intercluster configurations are also here, which is like overall and general for devices and the cluster. Okay, so though it is not something that you're going to use on a daily basis, but it's a really important place where generic configurations for the cluster are configured. Now, I mean, the next menu option called service parameter configuration. I came here and selected the first server, which is the publisher, and then I selected Cisco Call Manager active. So it shows that Cisco Call Manager service is active on this server, right? And there you would find many configurations uh, related to the publisher server and Cisco Call Manager's active Cisco Call Manager service, which is currently in active mode. So call throttling, memory throttling, system configurations, SDL, cluster-wide parameters, device, and then you have got cluster parameters, device, phone. Okay, so you can come down here and take a look at it. Like I said, this is not that you got to memorize. As you progress in Unified Communication Manager, as you explore more and more, you would come down less often, but it's really significant configuration that you may require to do over a period of time. For the sake of simplicity, I'm gonna skip it, but just a few more information. So I came down here, selected the second subscriber server, and I came down here, and this is what I wanted to show you, that Cisco Call Manager service is inactive here. This is why when we were trying to create a new call manager group, it only showed the publisher server, not the subscriber server, because call manager service is the service which is responsible for most of the work here. So the most important service for Cisco Unified Communication Manager. But in our lab environment, it's inactive right now. We'll go and talk about it, how to get it activated. So you can come down here, select your server, your service, and then come down and get it, get the various parameters configured. You would notice that you have got advanced tab here as well. This gives you even further option that you would in general do not see in the condensed mode. All right, so I deliberately wanted to click on advanced because you would read some documentation and it would ask you to make some changes, but when you come to the service parameter, you will not be able to find it and you'll be confused, right? So for that, you got to click on advanced tab here so that things appear much more in detail down here. So you would see that more and more features can be, can be seen here once we clicked on advanced mode. All right, after system, let me take you to the licensing part of it for the Cisco Unified Communication Manager. So we see that there are 20 enhanced licenses right now assigned to this Unified Communication Manager in our lab. Cisco Unified cool licenses, right? Workspace licenses are the most advanced and the most expensive license type, and the basic one is the least, in terms of features and in terms of pricing as well. This is at the bottom most, and this is the highest most in terms of end devices perspective. This basic type of license gives only one device license, where in cool, for one user you can have 10 devices added under one license. So this is really nice. Cool gives you much more things that comes along. For instance, if you buy a cool license, you get a you get a license to add 10 devices under one license, like 10 different phones, because uh, it's quite normal and natural that users may have more than one device, like IP communicator, jabber, their phones at two different locations, their video phones, and so on. So Cisco came up with the idea that you don't need to purchase license for each device. Rather, you buy Cisco Unified Workspace license, and you can live with it for 10 devices per user. It also comes with voicemail for each cool license. One voicemail is something that you get along with it, and based on certain number of cool licenses, you also get voicemail port uh, bundled with this package, which is not the case with the other kind of licenses, right? So I'm not getting into the details of the licensing, but that's where you're gonna come here and take a look at licenses usage, right? All right. So most of the important stuff are already covered for the first tab. Now let's go to the most important tab here, I would say, as an administrator, which is device tab. Uh, and then we can probably gonna come down to based on the importance and significance to other tabs. So the device tab, you would notice that we have got based on um, all right, based on device type certain options, but to check out different type of phones, including soft phones or physical phones, you'll come to device and then phone. Down here, I'm just going to show you one more time. So device and then come down to phone. You would see all sort of phones. Like I mentioned that for Apple, you have got bot, right? This is called, sorry, for Android Jabber, right? This guy is registered. Similarly, you have got for iPhones, uh, you know, Cisco Dual Mode registered here. You have got this Jabber thing registered here. We start with CSF. So we see that it's. I just clicked on that Cisco Jabber thing, and it's you see that Cisco Unified Client Service Framework, Cisco Unified CSF. That is why the name is written CSF. It has got a extension assigned to it, right? And the various configuration that we talked under system tab, like uh, device pool, right? And then location, right? And so on. Uh, so this is the place, right, where you can find all your phones, different type of phones, and you can add them uh, one by one, or you can get them auto registered, uh, and so on. So you can come down here and do an add new, and then you can select your phone model, right? And then select the phone type, uh, and then select the protocol that is going to be used for registration purpose. So we have got both options, SCCP and SIP, and then you can do next and provide the MAC address and various details for the phone. That MAC address is going to be the unique thing, and then you can choose the device pool and the phone button template, which would show you how many the physical buttons that are there on the phone. So this is one of the important place you would come down quite frequently, or probably I can safely say that this is the place where you would come most of the time as an administrator to see the registration status. It was registered back in 2 years ago. Uh, we can get our Jabber registered, and it would show you the current time. All right. For now, let's proceed for different devices like gateways, right? So you can have your MGCP or um, SCCP gateways added in here for outbound callings or PSTN calling, right? So far we have talked about phones and within the cluster, but uh, it's natural that the end users would make call outside the organization as well, to a cell phone maybe, or to a different company. So for that, you need a gateway to transfer the call towards the service provider, and they can, that those gateways can be added in here into Cisco Unified Communication Manager. We can get into the gateway later on, but for now, I just wanted to show you the places. Trunk, again, very important these days. They are uh, much more popular than regular gateways, because slowly Cisco has also shifted towards uh, SIP, and this is the place you come and add your SIP trunks uh, towards your service provider, which is again like the trunk would basically be added towards your gateway. So this is a link between this call manager and this particular IP address, which may be the gateway, the physical gateway, where the service provider is connecting their cable. So call manager would send a call to this gateway, this IP address, and that gateway will send call further to the service provider. Now, this has become really, really important these days, that the trunk configuration. So you would come quite often here, right? Now, device settings, you have got certain options related to the phone firmware, right? The device defaults, which firmware version would be utilized, the phone button template, device profile, soft key template, and many options down here that we can go one by one, and then when we get into detailed apps, we can talk about it. Now, coming to the call routing page, right? This is where you have got your call routing, digit manipulation, configuration, right? So you add the phones to the system, you configure the overall system infrastructure, but you want the phones to call each other, right? You want the phones to make outbound call, you want the phones to receive calls from outside to your organization, right? So this is where you come and configure the route patterns and send the call outside or receive the call from there, right? uh, Also, one of the important option that is used quite frequently is route plan report. This guy here, if you click on and you do a find, it's going to list out all the directory numbers. So if you want to know what all directory numbers are being utilized in your cluster, this guy is quite handy, right? So it gives you overall summary of the infrastructure. So you may have uh, hundreds and thousands of directory numbers configured on your cluster, and you have got no idea uh, which device it is registered with, right? So what you could do is simply search for your extension and do a find. So it's gonna give you a result of your extension is mapped to this guy here. So it's a tablet user, and it has got extension 1010, device name is this, and so on. So this is quite handy, right? uh, Now at this page you would find the route plan report like I talked about, and then you have got your directory number as well. So Directory number is again, if you do a find, it's going to give you all the directory numbers which are there in the system configured right now, but it does not really tells you where it is mapped. Uh, but route plan report, the section that we talked earlier, gives you a much better look. But if you click on the directory number, you could still find that this is the device where it is associated with this directory number, and you can click on this edit device, and you can eventually go back to this particular device here. No, it's not. It doesn't allow you to click on there, but there are other ways, like you can find it from this, you know, drop down menu and do a go, and it'll show you the associated device. All right, dependency record feature is disabled. We can enable, and then it's going to show that this extension is associated to this, and you could have clicked on from dependency record window. But anyways, route plan report, we talked about directory number, and then you have got translation patterns, very important in case you have certain digit manipulation happening, right? Uh, from outside to inside, you do not want your internal network exposed to outside network, right? So similarly, you do not want to show your internal dial numbers, internal directory numbers, totally exposed to outside world. You want to do certain digit manipulation, certain hidings. Maybe you just want to let the outside callers know the 3 digits number, the last 3 digit number, and internally it's something different. So you can come and create on translation patterns. This is very, very important uh, feature in Cisco Unified Communication Manager, and you would definitely be using translation pattern, which gives you the leverage of converting uh, any pattern, like for instance 2xxx to a different pattern, right? Maybe uh, something like call party transformation mask. You want to do it 3xxx, so it'll be converting your 2xxx into 3xxx. Or if you want to do remove 2, so you do is 2.xxx and come down here, and now you see that this field, which was not highlighted up before, it's giving you now various options. You could see pre-dot, so anything before the dot will be discarded, and the call party transformation will be like whatever you do, right? So remove the pre-dot, and the number will be like xxxx, right? So you do pretty much a lot of stuff here around translation pattern. Um, so I'll leave this section here. This class of control thing is basically about who calls whom, right? We're going to talk about it in later chapters, but for overview, I really want to just go through a few options, so you get to know about various features on Cisco Unified Communication Manager Administrator. So we talked about system, call routing, device, right? So let's talk about a bit on advanced features. So most of the time you would come basically here and configure voicemail. Okay, the voicemail profile, voicemail pilot number, anything related to voicemail will be configured under advanced features. So do not worry if you do not find any direct link to voicemail. Basically, it comes down here. So you can define your voicemail profiles, pilot, message waiting indicator, the red lamp that lights on Cisco IP phones to basically let the user be notified that you've got a voicemail message, and so on, the configuration for voicemail and so on. So we are under voicemail port, and right now we have got 2 voicemail port registered. So you would come down here and can explore various options for voicemail under advanced feature. There are other options as well, but uh, we're gonna stick to the voicemail section for now. And then you have got moving further, user management. This is the place where you come down and see the configuration of end users that are configured on the cluster. Uh, in our lab environment, there are just 20 users, right? But believe me, you would see many users configured under this user page. And when you have got your system integrated with LDAP, right, that we talked earlier about integrating with your directory services, you're going to see all your users in your enterprise listed out here. So if you've got your organization around 50,000 users, they all will be listed down here. So you can come down here and do search with the first name, last name, user ID, and so on, and it'll be displayed here. So one thing you would notice that these all users are local users and they're not being pulled from LDAP, otherwise it would be showing LDAP integrated users. For instance, I'm just gonna click on user 01, which has got um, Tom Smith. User 01 at cisco.com is the user ID, and the control device is CSF user 001, the Jabber device that we went and find under device and phone. Okay, so the primary extension is 1001 because the Jabber phone had only one extension configured, if you remember. So you can come down here and explain and define the primary and secondary extension. This is very important for contact center environment. If you do not define primary extension, the agent does not appear in UCCX environment. So this is where we are on end user page. The group that are associated with this end user, the roles that are given to it. You can add more groups to it, to this particular end user, and so on. So this is also one of the very important tab down here under user management end user. There are another type of application, another type of user, which is called application user. The purpose of this user, this type of user, is not the general end user, right? This is to do with, when you have got different servers working together, you basically create application user to let two servers talk to each other using that application user. All right. So you can come down and add new user over here, and that you can utilize somewhere else in some other server for integration purpose. All right. So these are the most important tabs that we talked about. Some other are like the media resources, for example, music on hold, transcoders, conference bridge, and so on. These are right here, and we can get into it some other time, but I just wanted to take a look at it, that this is where you have got your media resources configured, right? If you want to do bulk administration, like you want to add hundreds of phones or hundreds of users manually, you have got an Excel file and you want to insert user, that is like adding new users and so on, you could come down here and bulk administration and could do it here. You do not come here quite often, but when you have got a new site created, you can come down here and do the setup. Or if you want to do anything right with basically in one go, you can come down here and do the query or based on a file, you can pretty much do the bulk stuff. For instance, any directory number that starts with 10, right, I can make certain changes, right? So I came here to bulk administration. I came here to phone and update phone and do query, right? And then I did a directory number search with 10. And let's say what I want to do is I want to make a slight change in terms of description maybe, or anything, right? And that would be reflected down to each phone that is basically which came under uh, the query that we did, right? So we can change the device pool to anything, or we can make the soft key changes, and so on. So we could do a lot of stuff based on bulk administration, and based on the requirements, you can come down and do a lot of stuff here. So this is Unified Communication Manager Administration Introduction, right? And I think we're gonna close this session for now, and we're gonna talk about other options in different sections. For example, unified serviceability, the OS administration, IMN presence, right? Unified reporting, and so on. For this section, we remained on the second option, Cisco Unified CM administration, and we talked about different tabs. All right, so hope to see you soon in our next session. Goodbye for now.